Today we're here with Chuck Lund. Chuck is a driver out of Wisconsin, Eau Claire area, and we're here to talk to him a little bit about an experience, more specifically to an experience that he had back in July. It was actually July 11th, and it's kind of changed Chuck. So what we want to do is we want to talk about that event, but he's also going to give us a little bit of background on how safety affects him. And we're going to kind of get into this here a little bit. But Chuck, thanks a lot for taking the time and coming down here and doing this for us. It's a little bit out of the way and out of the norm, but this is a pretty big event for all of us, and I know how much it changed you. Can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, your job, what you do, and then how long you've been with Fortune and that sort of stuff?
Sure. Well, I've been with Fortune for almost 8 years. Next month will be 8 years. And obviously I'm a driver. And living in Wisconsin, I used to do a lot of short haul, but now I'm going longer, like say to New Mexico.
Okay.
Maybe come through here, and I see a lot of Texas, and I see a lot of Carthage, Missouri, and going through Oklahoma and things like that.
Okay.
So
good. And you recently reached 1 million miles with the company.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and that we got you a pretty nice truck, and very proud of that equipment.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah. What do you have on that truck that you're so proud of?
Oh, it says United States Marine Corps.
Yeah. I know you're a very proud Marine. So.
Well, yeah, we did our part. I did 7 years of them, and so they were dad unto me as I was growing up. My father really wasn't around, so they kind of took place of that.
Okay.
And being raised by mom and grandma, they really helped me turn it around and become more of a man. So yeah.
Well, I understand what that is. Obviously, you did your time,
Yes.
and of course, I'm still in the Army. It's coming up on 13 years for me.
That's
So,
quite a while.
so thank you very much for your service. I know what it takes
And
to
you
do
as
it,
well.
and I appreciate that. In terms of safety, why is safety important to you?
Well, the biggest thing is because it's one of the most dangerous jobs. Statistically speaking, I've heard it's one of the 10 most dangerous jobs in America. And it kind of affects my job on a daily basis because if I'm not careful, it affects everybody around me. So I really do everything I can to watch my surroundings, take my time, slow down when needed, and I definitely try not to speed. And there's a lot of different facets to that. But the more careful you are, the better it's going to go for you and everybody around you.
And we're going to show a video here shortly of the event that occurred back on July 11th. And one of the key components there is you talk about speeding. And we'll set that up here in just a little bit. But that was that's a key part of what kind of went into the whole event overall. And then, so let's take a look. Is there anything that you can think of that you can do better yourself to improve your safety or the company's?
Well, what I do is I try to keep a proper distance from vehicles, and I don't tailgate or speed. And there's a lot of things to consider, I feel, when you drive. Hills and grades, the weight of your unit overall versus how heavy a load you have. There's an example I like to use, and that's I-44 in Missouri. That's one of the hilliest, windiest, dippiest, divey interstates for 286 miles that I've ever seen. And I've also heard of a lot of trucks that roll on that interstate, and I've seen it myself. So with that said, depending on the situation, I definitely slow down. And I take it easy going around curves and things like that,
Right.
And I'm very concerned about, obviously, even the load shifting when I get to a receiver. If that happens, that's a big issue right there.
Right.
So I do try to be careful in all those aspects. And even, for the most part, I give people the right of way, whether they need it or not. And I always let them go ahead, if they got to have it that bad, let them have it. And so far, it's paid off.
Okay.
Even moving up and around my vehicle, I take my time. And I do have one story I'd like to share as far as that goes, like pre-trips and climbing in and out of your cab. 3 o'clock in the morning on one morning in Alexandria, Minnesota, I was climbing into my cab, and as you drive with your legs to get up into the seat, I banged the top of my head as hard as I could right on the top of the door frame.
Oh, sure.
I saw stars, I saw lights. And it was bad, you know, and I thought I was going to fall backwards, but no, I was okay. But even little things like that, you got to be careful when you're moving around your truck, and just take your time. And now I duck
Right.
when I go, you know, and so yeah, so things like that. Over the years, you learn a lot. So,
Sure. So it's even sometimes just the mundane, everyday things in and out of your truck so many times a day. You take those things for granted.
in your trailer.
Yep, and your trailer,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know your footing, and your, how easy it is to slip.
Yes.
Especially in the wintertime, and you being from the Midwest and the Upper Midwest at that is the weather and the icy conditions and those all sort of things. You just got to be careful every day, every step.
Oh, yeah. Think about it. Yep. It pays off.
Yeah. And so now we're going to kind of get into talking about the event that had some effect on you and us as an organization, and even me personally. I'm going to show you the video. Hopefully I didn't log out here, but I'm going to show you the video, and then
Okay.
you react to it, and then we'll kind of see where we're at with that. And I'm hoping it plays pretty easily here on the phone. But
Okay.
So I have it set up here, and I'm just going to press play here. And you can kind of tell me what you see from your perspective.
Sure. Okay. As we're moving along here, I'm in the right lane, and you're going to notice this mobile home come by me, and you're going to see these items lift up and off the top of his trailer, and then watch the right screen bash right through my windshield. And all that metal debris was not fastened down, and normally there's other double-wide mobile homes that I see that have tarps over the top with a great big band that secures all those things. That wasn't the case there. And the wind and the inertia, as fast as he was going, we discussed this. I was doing about 58 miles an hour, and he must have been doing 70 to get by me. And the wind and the inertia of all that lifted all that stuff off. So I thought, is that going to hit me, or is that going to hit the road? Well, one of them objects, obviously, as you can see, flew through the windshield. And it happened so quick that I really didn't have time to react except just cringe a little bit. And I moved over to the shoulder of the road, put my four-ways on, and pulled my brakes. And then I started shaking like a leaf. And I thought, wow, man, I feel liquid, like it's got to be blood. I got glass on my face. I got glass on my hairline, underneath my chin and my lips and my arm. And the first thing I did was I took 2 pictures and I sent them to my wife. And then I said, honey, I've been hit. Something flew through my windshield and I'm okay, but I wanted you to know. I don't want you to get secondhand information from the hospital or anything else. But I got to call 911. And so we talked for a minute. I said, well, I'm all right. And she said, okay. And so then I called you. And then after we talked, then I called 911. The dispatcher kept me on the phone until all the emergency personnel got there. And it must have been a matter of minutes. And there were sirens all around me. And so the other gentleman, though, we were in between like a ramp that enters the interstate, and I was on this side. He was on the far side, and he pulled over as well. And the police took my insurance binder. The paramedics were attending to me, and I was so covered with glass. As protocol as drivers, we got things that we're supposed to do, and I couldn't do any of it, and I'm grateful for your patience with that. And I didn't want to move because I didn't want to slice myself anymore, but I knew I had to get up and out of there. So I grabbed my suitcase, I grabbed my backpack, my phone, some essentials, and they put me on the cart, and they put me in the ambulance. And then a paramedic went back into the truck and grabbed some extension cords that I needed and things like that and some other stuff. And I could see the back door open, and I'm looking at my truck there, and the whole windshield is just caved in. And brand new truck, I was livid. And well, he mentioned something about saline solution to his partner over here, and then I felt a poke in my arm. And well, they shut the door, and away we go to the hospital. And the hospital itself was about a 2-hour ordeal, and I had so much glass in my shoes that the nurse had to empty them out, clean them out for me, and I was grateful for that. And then so after they asked me all my questions and did the grip test and vitals, and they determined that I was okay. And so after about 2 hours of that, the workman's comp report that you got stated that I could return to work the next day. And so you were kind enough to put me up in the room that night. And the following morning, we had to go back. The insurance adjuster and I went back to where my truck was, and they had this shrink wrap stuff all wrapped around the windshield. And because of the litigation involved in getting that vehicle out of there, Kurt asked me if I could drive it to a different place in order for them to fix the windshield. And yeah, it's kind of blurry, but I could see. And I looked on my phone. We got this Trucker Path device, and I found a little truck stop right in town, half a mile away. So I said, yeah, I can drive it there. But so we had to get the truck paid for, and then I was able to drive it. So I drove it there, and another driver by the name of Glenn Zuck was kind enough to take my load and make my delivery. I was only half hour away from San Antonio. And he put his empty trailer in that little San Marcos truck stop, and I drove over with my tractor and hooked up to that. And so I sat there, and I'm looking at all this glass on my floor and in my bunk and all over the place, and I got to start cleaning this up. And so I'd sweep and sweep and sweep, and I'd sit on my bunk, and I'd say, God, I don't want to do this no more. It was 106 degrees, So then I got up and I cleaned some more, and actually I got it looking pretty good. Then I noticed right down the sidewalk was a Econo Lodge, so you helped me get a room there that night, and at least if I looked out my door, I could see that my truck was okay, and which it was. And so the following day was Friday, and they finally came and fixed my windshield that evening at about 5:30. And by about 7:30 I was finished, and I was able to leave. So then I drove up the road about 2 hours, and I slept at a rest area that was quiet, and things were a lot better, So the truck was a lot cleaner. They even vacuumed it out for me. I was grateful for that. And so 2 days later, you couldn't even tell that I was in a accident like that. But it changed me personally because it showed me how fast we could die out there on the road. And being a Christian, I always haven't lived a perfect life. So I decided to give my heart and life back to Jesus Christ, and I believe that he shed his blood on the cross for my sin. And, the Bible talks a lot about hypocrisy and how the Lord will take those who are hypocrites and cast them into outer darkness where there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I certainly didn't want that to happen to me. And I wasn't ready to meet him at that point in time. And I knew it. And so I kind of redid my spiritual life and told him I was sorry for living the way I have, and would you please give me a second chance, which I did. Coming out of that unscathed just shows me that he's a merciful God. And so I rededicated my life to him, and over the last 4 weeks, I was doing a lot of beer drinking on the weekends, and I threw all that out now, so I've been sober for a month. And it feels a lot better, And so little by little steps are being taken in my own spiritual life, and I read my Bible a lot more now, every single night, with a lot more intensity and a lot more prayer involved, and one step at a time. So with that said, I can't say I'm born again for the first time because I did that a long time ago. Sure. But I can definitely say that I definitely have a recommitted life to the Lord again, and it feels better that way. So I definitely want peace with God, Right. Billy Graham writes a good book about peace with God, and it's a good read. So I would encourage anybody who wants to pick that up. It'd be all right, It's good. So with that said, my spiritual life has changed, and I'm grateful to be alive.
Well, we're grateful that you're here. You did such a tremendous job with just how you handled the situation.
Thank you.
And we don't see those events often.
Right.
And how professional drivers are in those circumstances. They just come through. And of course, maybe it has a lot to do with your background and of course your behavior to be able to handle that situation and to calmly get the vehicle off to the side of the road safely without interrupting anything else in the public and keeping everybody else around you in mind. And I don't even think at the time you even thought about that. You were just it was just reactionary. It was muscle memory. It was how you were taught to drive and be professional, and that's in you all the time, and that we appreciate, and we're very glad that you came out of this way, and I'm really glad everything turned out the way it is. All that bent metal and the windshield and any freight concerns, all that stuff can be fixed. the part that can't be fixed is when we lose people. And,
Yeah.
and thankfully, in this case, everything turned out really well.
That could have been a taken off of my head moment had that item been over to the left anymore. But it was over to the right where it didn't hit me, and I knew that, you know. And I wasn't hurt per se, so I was able to react in a positive way. And like you said, just kind of everything comes natural.
Right.
And I was very fortunate, yeah.
Well, again, Chuck, we really appreciate everything you do, and not just on that day, but every day.
No,
we
I
really
try.
do
Thank
appreciate
you. I
it.
appreciate fortune.
Yeah, and thank you so much for spending the time with us and going over that event. And I'll make sure I get the video out there so that people can see it as much as possible.
I appreciate that.
Because I know how important it is to you and how important it is to Fortune that we present that as good behavior, driver behavior. So,
In a positive light,
positive light. Even though it
Yes,
was a
sir.
negative event, positive light.
yeah. You guys did such a good job taking care of me. I'm grateful for that. Not every company would do that. And I think that's what makes Fortune a special company.
Well, we appreciate it, Chuck, and thanks again for coming in.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate
Thanks.
that.
Yep.
Thank you.